Hey, Internet, my chair is beginning to squeak. You hear that? Yeah, today. I had intended to have some time with you today, and instead I got locked out of the house for about 2.5 hours with 4 kids. The good news about that was that there was a swimming pool involved. The bad news about that was that it was getting colder and there were a lot of bugs, and everything else we needed, including dinner, was not in the not in the no, was in the house. so so I ended up in a float tube, two of them really. I took both of them because the kids got out; they were freezing. I sat in that tube and I went around in circles because the jets were on. Created a little bit of a, what do you call that? A float thingy. I don't know what you call that. Lazy river. Yeah. Went around in circles for about 2 hours, and yeah, it's probably good for me. Probably the kind of thing I need from time to time, but it's not what I plan to do today. And so as a result, I'm not really prepared to sit here. I was going to finish putting up a tent, trying to put a little cover on our patio so we could sit in the shade some afternoons. I was going to finish that. I probably had 10 minutes on that, and so I'd taken everything else inside. Really close to being done with that. I was going to come inside. I was going to put away the meat from dinner that had been cooked, and some kids had eaten, but some had not. It was all sitting on the counter. My wife had taken oldest daughter and just my oldest daughter and herself to some summer volleyball stuff for potentially 4 hours, what I had been told when they left, which didn't sound so bad necessarily until after we were locked out. And and then I was going to come in and I was going to live stream for I don't know a while, but I was like I haven't been on for a couple of days. I took the 4th of July. It was good. It's good to rest. Okay, time to get going. And then then I floated in a circle for 2 hours. So I don't have a lot more to say today. I'm still pretty frustrated. I want to go to bed. There's a lot of stuff I didn't get done. Not a lot. There are a few things. A few, I don't know if I'll call them central things, but those things that you really love doing, and you put them off to later in the day because you feel guilty if you do them, so the stuff you feel like you should be doing, like those kinds of things. So there's that. I could talk a little bit about the fact that the Book of Hours I've been working on continues to make small bits of progress, and I'm getting to that every day now. So since KFUO is done, I do have about an extra 2.5 hours every day to float in circles, I suppose, if that's really your thing. Right? Am I spiking here? Looks like my sound is spiking. Float in circles, if that's really your thing. Or you can, do other stuff. So I am getting into that Book of Hours every day, which that project really excites me. If you don't know what a Book of Hours is, it is intended to be a prayer book, but one which is simple. Most prayer resources that I've found are they're great, but they're intense. And so anyway, so that's still in the works every morning. And also continue to work on the comic book. Myself and Adam Boggs are getting close to issue number 1, and still wrestling with a couple questions there on distribution. We think we're going to go with Kindle Direct Publishing. I should mention, we went to Concordia Publishing at first, and they were sort of interested, but ended up not really being interested. So we're thinking Kindle Direct, which is the Amazon version. Apparently, their paper quality isn't so hot, which with the comic book you kind of want it to be, right? But at the same time, we're new. It's kind of a limited thing, and so I don't know. So, and the thing about comic books too is, they're not cheap to self-publish. So even if you try to keep the price down as much as you can, it's gonna be more than you'd pay for a comic book in a store, and that's Amazon or Lulu or whoever you go with. That's what that is. So part of me is thinking what we'll do is we will release it digitally initially. So if you want the initial issue 1, it's just going to be digital. So you have to look at it on an iPad or a screen or something, which is 30 pages. So not as cool as it could be. But then once we get up to 5 issues, we'll release those in paper book, more like a graphic novel form, which I think will keep the price down overall. Unless you buy both, then it might not. No, it really would. I don't know. So we're still looking into that. Trying to figure out where to go with that. If you have any ideas, you want to ping me via ripfist.com, feel free on that, of just how to self-publish a a comic book in a way that is good for your users, good for your readers and viewers, and also allows you to get something out of it for the work that's been put into it. Adam Boggs, the guy who's the artist, it's fun to watch him grow. He's a young guy, either I don't really know if he's just going back to college or if he's going to college as a freshman this year, but it's fun to watch him grow as an artist and to work with me and my ideas and watch my ideas come to life. I wonder if I could even show you guys a little bit of something right now. Hold on, let me see if I can give you guys a preview. That'll be fun for those of you that are hanging out. Look at that. But no. You know what? I'll look at it, but for 4 likes, I don't know that I can do that. So we'll see if you guys get some likes up on this thing, and I will give you a preview of man, you know what? I like this software so much, and yet at the same time, I feel like I need to watch a tutorial on it. And the funny thing about that is I spent a great deal of time writing down every week how that's good that you got us to 14 when you just shy. I spent every week on my to-do list is like watch eCam tutorials. There's 15. We'll show it. Watch eCam tutorials, and it just never happens every week. But there should be a way, I feel like, to go to do stuff to put on the screen, which I can without it like jumping all over the computer and like moving stuff around at the same time. So let me find a good page here that'll be. I don't want to give away too much. I'm really happy with what this. That's a good page to like show off. That's pretty sweet. Okay, so let's see here. We're gonna pull this one big. Take me half a second here, and now it's bad radio. Boom. Nope, I want to go here now. If I go to share screen, what's going to happen? What are you going to show me there? Maybe. Let's see. Let's do this. Desktop. Did that do it? There it is. So it's not very big. Make it bigger for you. There we go. Now can I? Oh, there you go. Sweet. So this is a late page in the book, in the comic book, and I don't know what your initial thoughts are. I'm very happy with this. There's a lot of pieces that this is building on from earlier in the work. And this might have a typo in it. I have not gone carefully through that yet, I think, with a fine-tooth comb. But can you figure out where this is? I mean, it's a place in the Holy Scriptures. And the one thing that would be out of place in this thing is the little dude right here, right? And that's you. You is a character in the work, and you as the character in the work are not always the same you. So you takes different skin colors, genders, things like that throughout the work, but usually a young person because we're aiming at teenagers and whatnot. And this is the first you see in the book is this guy, and so that's you, and you're there sitting in a valley of dry bones. With I'm pretty sure that's a prophet behind you, yeah. And he's looking down at you, and then the setup is going there. So yeah, I mean, I'm really happy with the way it's turning out so far. The kid, Adam, he's pretty good, and the thing is, he keeps getting better. That's what I really like too. He's progressing. So each piece of work gets better, which he probably gets frustrated. I'm like, okay, so now you got to go back to that third page and do that part again, like this. So I start over. So I'm happy with the way it's turning out. I'm happy with the concept and story that's going on, and I don't want to give away too much of that. Maybe I should, but no, we'll save that for a little as we get closer to release. But the intention here is to have an ongoing running series that we'll see what life does, right? It could be 100. 125, 150 issues. I mean, it's a bona fide comic book with a long storyline that I have in mind, and is biblically connected, right? It's going to be biblically educational, theologically educational, historically educational, somewhat fantastical at the same time, and yeah. So anyhow, the big question would be, how do we release it, and what what formats and all that, and those things are still coming. But he's working on the last. It's not the last page, but 2 of the last 3 pages. It's like this huge spread he's got to finish. So we got the 2 cover pieces to do, front and back cover. And then we're going to be very close to ready to go with this thing. Again, once I get the actual details worked out behind the scenes of how to deal with Kindle. So, yeah. So that's going on, a little bit every week, a little bit every other day or so. And then I finally have begun tinkering with 2 new writing projects. Whenever I finish a work like the one that will be coming out, not this fall. I said this fall earlier. I was wrong. The release date is now I'm gonna lose the date. It's like February 2nd of 2020. This is a CPH released theological work, and it's just finished in editing, so it's going to typesetting and layout and all that kind of stuff. Right now, I had a meeting with them just last week, and it tentatively called The Word Without Flesh. It's about the Lord's Supper. They are not really wanting to use that title necessarily. They don't think it'll market well. Okay, I like it, but anyway, so I can't really promote it too much in that regard, but that's there. So I finished that, oh man, probably 3.5 months ago. Was it March I gave it to them? Something like that, 4.5 months ago. Somewhere in there, April. It was April maybe. And the last time that happened with every book I've done before, there's like a lull of trying to figure out what's next. And you have all these ideas that you had maybe done before that you think you want to come back to, and you maybe come back and you tinker with those a little bit. And so I was doing that, go into story and history on that a little bit. I mean, after Broken, it took way too long to figure out what was going on, but that's a whole different issue. So I was kind of doing that and messing with a fictional book that I had started working about 9 years ago. Lots of pieces to it, but only about maybe a third done. But I thought, I could probably get this thing done. And I'm very happy with the way it works, but I just hadn't been able to get to it. And especially that KFUO morning radio, 2 hours a day, 2.5 hours a day, depending, that was the thing that was really in the way. So I was like, okay, once that's over, I can start writing. Well, that's been over for a week, and that week was the week of the 4th of July. I went 2 days that I was going to try to take off. So it wasn't a ton of writing that I've been able to get to in that, although I'd poked at it. I'd poked at that fiction. But then randomly, I mean, this was so randomly and weird during the last weekend, the 4th of July weekend, rather than work on that or do the things really relaxing I normally like to do, which would be play video games or something like that. Instead, suddenly I found myself spurting out initial pieces and ideas and drafts of 2 completely separate books, both of which have been floating in my head for a while. One of which is, when did I start that? Let's see here. I started a book called The Crux, fiction, when I think I was probably 21. I might have been 20, I might have been 22. I might have been 19. And I wrote the whole book in about 2 or 3 or 4 years. And it was while I was pursuing do you know this is a bachelor's in creative writing. Mm-hmm. You can get a lot of jobs with that one. But I did finish it. I completed the work, and I was very proud of it. My parents thought it was weird and bad, and my fiance was like, "This is weird and bad," and she's my wife now, and she was kind of right. Interestingly though, my fiction teachers, who also thought it was weird and bad, Actually, my fiction teachers and my wife would complain about the fact that part of the book was set in a jungle with these like humanoid cats that would like live in the trees and just kind of live down there, and it was about their interaction with people of technology. And then there was this movie called Avatar like 15 years later. So I have these people telling me, this is a weird, bad idea. Cat people, what are you talking about? It'll never work. And then like Avatar comes out. And I'm like, but around the same time, I also started a book called Impatient as the Setting Sun, also a fiction book. Impatient as the Setting Sun. And it was a novel in which a young man, a knight in, say, 17th century Europe, is kidnapped, captured, initially as food, but then it turns out as a lover by a vampire, and about his whole experience discovering vampire society and a love story. And people also told me that one wouldn't work. And then there was that, worldwide hit that all the people liked it a lot, made a lot of movies and stuff, and Twinkle Twinkle Vampires. I don't know, right? My books were terrible back then. The writing wasn't good. The ideas weren't bad. The writing was not very good. So I started The Crux way back then. I wrote talk about a tangent. I wrote the, come on now. I wrote the whole book in a couple of years. Again, it was complete, it was bad, and then I never sent it off anywhere, and I put it away. And then I came back to it maybe a year or two later. When I was at seminary, I'd take like my Friday afternoon or my Saturday morning. I would go and I work on a book, and I was trying to rewrite this book, The Crux. And I did it for another 3, 4, 5 years, 6 years, all the way up until like 2 years out in the pastoral ministry. And I really hadn't been working on it much anymore, but it was just a burden at that point. And so I gave up on it. I'm like, I got to do something new. This thing is just guilt over my head. I can't do it anymore. And so I set it all aside. And I started another book, which is the one you've heard pieces of, which again is like 8, 9, 10, 11 years ago now. Somewhere it's 10 years. Long time ago. Now it's in that spot a little bit. That book's a much better book again, but incomplete. But then, okay, so then randomly, like last Friday, the opening scene from this older original fiction work that I had was like in my head as I was trying to take a 10-minute little, eyelid snooze on the ground in my study, like right back there on the ground. And rather than do that, I had no option but to spin around, open my computer, and start adding just a couple of thoughts in case I ever went back to the book. And not only did it get a new title in that 7 minutes of time, I haven't really stopped working on it. Not enough, and not as much as I'd like. When you float in circles for 2 hours a day, sometimes you lose some things you intended to do. But it's there, and I'm really curious about that. I'm really excited about it. We'll see. And then another a theological one. So I was really intending to just do fiction. Because I've never written 2 books at once successfully. It always gets in the way of itself. And yet here I am going to try it again. Because the theological work that I was spurred to by a couple of things. It's one it's sat there for a while. I've had people ask about it a little bit. I've thought about it quite a bit as really, really necessary to do. And then recently I had a member here, a really good guy, wanting some more clarification on the idea, because it's an idea I talk about. I don't know. It's not like a daily thing in whether it's a podcast or whatever, but when it comes up, I'm very, very stolid about it. Is that a word? Stolid? I think it is. I really stick on this pretty hard. And I'd like to think it can be something that doesn't have to be that long. We'll see. I'm tired of the long. If Broken and Echo were long, the next one should be a little bit shorter. It's maybe half the length of those two. So that one, I don't know if I want to give it away yet here, but again, randomly, not really intending to do so, I began taking down notes that effectively are the outline of it. And that process, I mentioned just the note-taking process probably will take 15 to 25 sittings, I think, to get that really hashed out. And then, and those sittings are an hour and a half. And then from there, the thing about writing that's really, this is anything you do, but I think, and it's probably pretty narcissistic or selfish just to say, I feel like writing is maybe even more so. There's a lot of things that you get good at by doing them a lot, but writing's a particular beast. It is an art like unto painting. It is an art like unto music, playing an instrument. The thing is, so you can get good at writing, so email, no problem, right? Like someone who's an artist can sketch out like a little drawing, no problem. It's kind of crap, but you think it's amazing, right? But they're like, oh, that's crap, that's right? So writing's like that. And then the thing is, though, you don't get to generally, if you get into writing articles or blogs or something, you can do regular performance, the way a musician would do a regular performance in a concert or something like that. And or the way an artist might do something that they sell. But if you're going to write a book, it's sort of like you have to master performance. And you don't get many of these. You really don't. If you are a prolific writer, you're maybe going to get 10, 15, 20 books in a lifetime. There are people who write books that are just, they're just words, right? But if you're going to write good books, readable books that endure, you're not going to get many of these in your lifetime. It was a really, really tough thing to decide, I'm going to write this now, because it means I'm not going to write something else before I die. And that's a tough one to wrestle with. So anyhow, but this one, I feel like there was something else I wanted to say about. Oh, I do feel like, I'm really hoping. And Echo showed this, and then I think Word Without, maybe Flesh, whatever it's going to be called, also showed this, is that you do progress in the ability to at least figure out how to get the skeleton of that masterpiece done more quickly. The question really comes down to, at what point do you decide good is good enough, and then take the step to real masterpiece? So, for example, Broken could be such a better book. And the reason it was as good as it was when I was as young as it was how many drafts it went through. I went through probably 3 drafts before the editor Kinnaman saw it, and then he went through a draft, and then he insisted that it go to 3 peer review people. He went through a draft with me, cleaning up bunches of stuff, and then we went to 3 peer review people. This was kind of a new thing he tried. It was a lot of work for him too, he tells me, but. It came back from them, and because of that, I had to go through a whole nother draft. And it wasn't like I had to, but I did. Oh yeah, they're right. And then he and I did a whole nother draft after that again. So I went through so many drafts. And it still is a very, very young, youthful book, I think, in the writing. Whereas Echo was much smoother to put together, much smoother to come out. And then Word Without, I wasn't even sure it was any good, honestly. I'd probably spent about 14 months on it, 13 months on it. That book I'd started 10 years prior. It had gone through 2 drafts that just ended up, on the cutting room floor, as just the heart and soul of them were pulled out into this final thing post Echo that I did in about a year. But even after that, I was like, okay, how long am I going to spend on this? I have other stuff I want to write. This has been over my head. I want to get off my head. I want to get it out there. I'll get it out there. I'll get it to Scott. We'll see what he says. And so I did. And I kept waiting for it to come back and be like, yeah, Fisk, no. Oh yeah, Fisk, it's okay. It's okay. Not your best work, but it's okay. And then we had this meeting last week, and it was about a bunch of stuff that, what is the cover going to look like? Things like that I care about. But the thing that was so helpful to me, it validated me quite a bit, was because Kinnaman's editor was in the room. And, they asked me to try to pitch the book. Now, the book's already kind of contracted, but for them as artists and marketers, what's the pitch? What are we selling here? And so I did that. And then I said, Scott, would you say that's what the book actually did? or what the book actually does? And he gave me some really high praise on the work, and mentioned the need for the work and how effective it is at what it does, and how it is, it serves as a real valuable, soft call to a needed repentance in certain spheres, and without necessarily letting you know that's what's happening, as it goes. So that was very validating to know that after that, that 12 months of okay, I'm gonna apply what I learned from these previous books I've written. I'm gonna do it like this. I'm gonna follow this structure. I'm gonna hand it this way, and then I'm gonna say it's good enough. And it, at least according to the editor, my editor who's done all the other 2 books, says it's just as good as the other 2. So that's very validating for me. So hopefully, with this next one, I will be able to move that along in a fairly efficient manner, if not speedy, right? If not speedy. So, and that one, I kind of want to keep it close to the vest for a moment here, but I'm excited about that too. So that makes another kind of major project, book-wise, in the works all at once. How many things can you juggle? Yeah. So the comic book will be the one you guys see first, and hopefully that book of ours first round release will be coming sometime this fall. I hope. I want to use it. So I really want to get it out. I can show you. Hold on. Oh, where is it? Did I do this before? So here's the preview copy from, I think it's from Kindle Select again, which at KDP, Kindle Direct Publishing. It's not all on Kindle. It's Amazon's company for publishing, self-publishing. And I'm really not happy with the size of this thing. I really wanted it to be like this, pocket size. Apparently Lulu, I think you can do that. But then you have other limitations that happen there. But what I wanted to show you is look. So here's the inside of it. Oh, can you even see that? No, it's too bright. Oh, you can't even see it. That's terrible. Nope, you can't see it. Well, there you okay, there you go. So see the writing on the page? It's not ready to go to print. I'm really working frustratingly with an open source Bible translation, which there aren't many. And the one that I'm working with is probably the best known in the King James. And I started trying to be very careful and select in just making sure it could be understood. And because I'm a terrible person, I just can't leave it alone. And so I keep just shifting little pieces here, and fixing punctuation. There's a lot of weird punctuation in the King James. And doing stuff like that. And then you come to a verse where it's like really an archaic and outdated translation. I mean, the word unicorns, they're not unicorns, right? And so you start changing those things, and at some point you just are like, ugh. But see, the goal that I really have is that it would have been just to release it with like an NKJV translation. And maybe someday we can do that too, I suppose. But that costs. It costs. It's hard to do unless you're a big publisher. And then the goal for me is to take these texts that are here and do my own translation of them with an eye toward readability and devotion. So not necessarily with an eye towards scholarship, or even that you would say, well, I'm going to quote Fisk's Bible, right? And no, right? Not that. But rather that it would just feed your faith day by day and like keep you immersed in like the spirit of the text. A little better than a paraphrase, but definitely in that dynamic equivalent realm of translation. So anyhow, so that's something that like would be like around 2 or around 3 of this thing. The initial one's going to be a slightly updated KJV. And then what's missing from it still is the daily readings. And so what's in here is a month's worth of prayers and readings that you would go through every single month. And it just repeats, right? Wash, rinse, repeat. And it keeps you in a number of different places throughout the year or throughout the month that will be valuable to you throughout the year. Especially with highlights in Psalms and songs of Scripture, and then the Proverbs as well being a part of that. So that's all structured in such a way that you can do it in about 4.5, 5 minutes a day. 4.5, 5 minutes 3 times a day. And then what it still needs is the daily reading, which will go with each of those 3 different times. There'll be a reading that'll be different lengths depending on the time, so that again you move from 4 minutes to 6, 7 minutes for your morning, noon, and night devotion. Again, you can keep in your pocket would be ideal, and then you can just pull through it. And then each of those days' readings will be set according to the calendar year. So while you're doing the same overall thing, 31 days a month, then you also have a once a year movement through the Scriptures, which is not going to be the whole Bible in a year. Not going to try to do that. It's laudable, but I think it's maybe even a little misguided. The goal would be to keep you in the spirit of the Scriptures, and all of them, throughout the whole course of the year, while also touching on the church year, while also recognizing that you can't really do the church year and the calendar year in a book that repeats because of the problem with Easter and when Easter falls. So trying to deal with that as well. And I think I have a solution for that within the resource, right? I'm not going to fix Easter, but within the resource. So, this is, to me, this is just such a cool idea. It's been in my head for years again. I found, it's back on the shelf, so I'm not going to go grab it. I will. I'm going to go grab it. Oh, where are you? I might have hidden it. There it is. Nope, that's not it. Oh, where are you? It's up there? Nope. Maybe it's not easy to find. I will come back if I find it. That's not it. Nope. Where are you? I will give up, but now I'm frustrated by it. Nope. Can't find it. Well, that's frustrating. It's somewhere back there. And if you go back in like some really old WeTV videos way back, you can actually see it in the background because Brian Wolfmueller found it in my office in Bethany, Naperville, and then put it in the background without telling me, so it would show up in the videos. So it's in like 3 of them. It's a book of hours that I picked up because I was looking for a devotional resource, and I just thought it looked cool. And it was selected readings of Thomas Merton. Now, if you know Thomas Merton, He's a mystic Buddhist Catholic. It was really bad. I mean, I'm talking about bad. It was bad. But the structure was exactly right. It was the kind of thing you could do in 4 minutes a day. 4 minutes, 3 times a day, throughout a month, and have it repeat. It was exactly right. So ever since I found that, I'm like, why don't we have this? Why don't we have this? And that's what I'm working on there. So hopefully, again, I'll get a release version that would be. It's still gonna be 1.0, but a release version this fall. And hopefully this has some legs. For you, not just because I want you to buy my stuff, right? But because it's going to be a tool. I don't know if you can see the art. I got art made for this too. Oh, come on now. Where is it? Now you can't really see it right there. There's art. I want that smaller than it is, but there's this really cool kind of woodcutty looking art for the dawn, day, and dusk segments, and then I have some that's not in here yet for the 4 different weeks of the month that we're calling what's the first one? Is it Calends? I'm basing the month on the Roman year. I'm sorry, the Nones, the Ides, and the Calends, and then you have this week in the middle that doesn't have a name, so that's times time and half time. It's sitting there out of time and all that. So lots going on, and that's just like a touch. That's just a touch, but yeah, those are the big pieces I care a great deal about. And again, the thing that if you're throwing me cash, right, via Patreon, it's going to this somehow, some way, right? It's going to this somehow, some way. It's helping pay bills in the house too, especially now post KFUO. But that's so that I can do this, right? So I have the space for these kinds of things, and so I thank you for that. Those of you who do that and continue to do that. Again, it's always tied to the podcast to keep me honest in terms of production on the podcast, but the way this happens too is through that. So, oh man, was there anything else today? A lot of other random stuff. Everbook. We haven't even put this on the camera yet. I got the 2 prototypes that we were working on from India. If you haven't found Everbook yet, go check out everbookforever.com. Oh, that hurt. And Wolfgang and I have been working on this concept. This is one of our 2 prototypes from India, where we were hoping to get a pretty good deal on it. The trick is that the leather that they're made out of, this is the second one. This is the thicker one. There's 2 different styles. The first one I used for 2 weeks and it began to peel, which means it's not real leather. So I don't want to sell that to you. But what I love, it feels great, and it's got these flaps, which are just fantastic. I worked without these flaps. If you've been watching Everbook, you know, like Wolf Miller's had these flaps on it, and the rest of us who are ripping out journals, we got no flaps. And I was like, oh, those look cool, those look useful. It took me all of like an hour of having the flaps where I was like, I never want to let go of these again. I don't care if it's falling apart. I want the flaps. They are so useful. So I don't know if I can give you more detail on this right now, but this is the other one. I'm continuing to test this one. We're trying to get that first one to him, and then we'll figure out what we got to do to get we want to give you a good product, because you're going to have to pay for it because it's going to be leather, but we want it to actually be leather then, don't we? So that you can buy one and last your lifetime. So that's where that's been sitting while he's been in Europe and moving across the country and all those things too. So it's been tough to move that stuff forward. And so that the website sat pretty dead for a little bit, but so anyway, today it was a 4-hour weekly review. My Monday mornings usually are, looking at all the projects, trying to pull all the different ideas together, make sure I'm not dropping anything, finding my trigger lists, and getting everything onto a couple of, where is it? I'll show you that. Getting everything for the week onto one sheet. That's the side. That ain't not really it. Here it is. There's it. That's my week. That's what's got to get done this week. So if you want to steal my life, I don't know if I put anything real in here that you could steal. But for the week, and then you use this space here to keep track of what's going on day by day. So it'll move through the most needed stuff that's in here. But if I got a space or time or want to plan, in fact, you can see what I've got for tomorrow that I've got to get done. Tomorrow I got to get my issues, etc. Proverbs set up for Wednesday done. I've got to get my layout for my Higher Things presentation in Mequon, doing 2 breakouts there, and the Elders Agenda. also needs a review. So, those things have to get done. And then the rest of it is you open up, you're like, okay, I got some time. What am I going to do next? What do I not want to forget? And you can pretty much do a daily review just by skimming this pretty well. Still too much. So a lot of time, to get that out of, hold on. Oh, you're still listening? Out of this packet of projects. So, not much there, huh? Broken into, oh my goodness, what do we got? The stuff you want to see first, the stuff about online stuff I do, the church office stuff, the curriculum development stuff. That's kind of fun. Yeah. Training a couple of young guys who want to go to seminary. That's been a fun thing. Everbook, home and finances, liturgical development, sending guys and people. I need to remember. Yeah. So you go through that really slowly. Go through your email. Make sure everything's pulled out. Get all your inboxes clear. Get down to 0, and in theory, start your week with this. And by Friday, this is a bit, filled up, mostly gone. The inbox on the back's got a bunch of stuff you don't want to forget that you'll make sure you see next week. And you feel kind of guilty for all the stuff you didn't do, but you keep moving a comic book and 2 books and prayer book along a bit at a time. So, I thought I didn't have a show tonight. That's 36 minutes talking about random stuff I'm doing. Danzer, yes, I'm glad to see you at Higher Things. Pat, it's next week. It's next week. So there's Danzer. He's a good man. Hopefully get my kids to go to some of your breakout on absolution there. So, thin. I ain't thin. I'm losing weight because I'm trying to lose weight, and it's working, and it feels great. Oh my goodness. I have not talked yet about my new nutritional, zealous position, and I probably won't for a while in this location, but I've never felt so good in my life. And it's all food. It's all what you eat. Not when, not how much, just what, and man alive, it is a game changer. We'll bring that up another time. Let's see. Looking at your comments here now. You're not getting my studio mic. Was that when I was far away? You got to be getting my studio mic. Come on. Built-in microphone. You're not. Oh, no. Crud. It's not even there. I don't know what to do. Why are you not there? I show you audio capture? Is that it? I want this. Now? Yeah. How depressing is that? So I could have gone around and around in a pool for 2.5 hours today and then done a 36-minute show with good audio. But instead... Thank you. Well, don't do that. You are correct, and I deserve all of your mockery from now until forever for that reality. And I had the mic talking like this the whole time, and then it doesn't even make a difference in the sound. I mean, what a thing. 9:30. Is the Berean Literal Bible open sourced? I don't know, but there's a couple other actual open source ones out there, and they're just not that good. And so I end up tweaking them. So if I'm going to tweak something, I might as well do it with the KJV. It's just a better thing overall. It's got a pedigree that's really valuable as a thing, and I don't mind. I don't know if I'll ever remove the these and thous and the haths. Those are kind of sweet. So we'll see. And I don't know much about that one though. Studio Wowjoy. I'm not sure. Would I consider something for the 12 to 18 age group? But the comic book should really do that. And the fiction book, not so much, probably, actually. So I don't know if what you have in mind particularly with that, but the whole reason I'm looking at the comic book as one medium that I would like to expand on with multiple artists. I could do that, by the way. The artist got to work harder than the writer does. Well, it depends. I think their time commitment in some ways is very different. So, yes, right? And that's another, I guess I am working on that too. I have an idea about how to, well, I should keep that close to the chest for now too. So yes, but if you have something in mind, shoot me at specifically at refist.com through that contact page because I'm curious. But in terms of books, no, I have no intention of writing books for 12 to 18-year-olds, and I have one pretty big reason for it. which is that they don't read books unless it's junior fiction. And then they read junior fiction, but then it's got to be about teen angst and how parents aren't worth listening to for the most part. And so I'm just not really wanting to try. Yeah. I've had the thought. I don't know if I'd be very good at it. It's because it's a very specific genre. I don't know. I think it would take a lot of learning on my part to make sure that the voice was not leaving them behind, not in an intellectual way, but almost trying to say like grow up, read a real book, kind of thing. So, and I like Harry Potter. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I think Harry Potter is a great series in terms of its writing, fantastic writing. Hard to do though, really hard to do. So yeah, I'm not going to write books for 12 to 18-year-olds because they don't read generally. They're not going to read a theology book. I mean, give them Echo. And if they read it, God bless them. And they're unique. They're unique and standouts. Most kids aren't going to be willing to do it. Most adults won't do it. Kind of a thing. Let's see here. Siberian unicorns. I don't think that's what the Bible is talking about. And I don't remember. I looked it up too recently. It's really not even close to what's going on with the King James. So, like... yeah, like Jesus is like saying the unicorns are stabbing him or something effectively. It just isn't it. But maybe there was. C.S. Lewis has a really cool poem about unicorns, about the unicorn being left off the ark. It's pretty good, and I'd almost recommend it, except for that trying to get a couple lines from a C.S. Lewis poem into my new book was so tedious and so impossible and so expensive, and then it still didn't work out even if I sent them the check, because I came back because I couldn't be. It's just that I don't want you to buy the book out of protest to people who have copyright on stuff just for quoting the poem that would sell the poem more. That bothers me quite a bit. So thank you, Ryan. I really do appreciate that. I feel like that book is about the best thing I've done in my life, including better than my kids. I think my kids are great. But in terms of any kind of vocational work I've done, it is the crown jewel at the moment. So horseshoes and hand grenades. I don't know, studio. I don't know what that means. Back to the Daniel podcast. Tell me about it. That's a really good question. When I can read, commentary's sitting right there, waiting for me. I don't know. You've really made me feel guilty. I need some time away from it, at least, to get on my feet and thinking with this, right? And then feel free enough in this and not afraid of losing connection with this and the overlap with the podcast, and being able to do some writing that I don't want to leave behind, and financially not being worried about, again, having to get this out a little bit more. That I can take that kind of 3 hours or 4 hours and just do that digging, reading, and then come back with it. So I know exactly where I left off, and I know why. I mean, I have to go dig into some numbers, some dates, and basically semi-recant a small portion of the previous Daniel episode. It's a historical tidbit, not a theological one, but it's just a lot of work, and it's going to be, it's tough. And so while I'm also trying to just keep something going every week for the podcast and then get this stuff up and going, it's just a bit much. But Revelation, I don't know either, although I preached on Revelation recently. So if you go to my podcast and go back and look at it, it's refist.podbean.com. Is that right? Yeah. And go back a little ways, about a month and a half, you'll see about 4-6 sermons in Revelation. You get toward the end. There is in the stuff I recorded last week in Fort Wayne, one of them was Revelation in an hour. It was an hour and 10 minutes. I got through the whole book. I don't know how well. In the end, definitely got shortchanged a little bit. But it was, it might scratch your itch a little. And I'm contemplating about a 10-week series to do the same thing again this fall. It wouldn't go as deep. I don't know if I'll ever get to go as deep as I was going then. There was something special about just kind of the edge I had at that moment and the itch I had at that moment to dig and pull together and imitate Dan Carlin, which, hardcore history, right? Which I am not Dan Carlin. And that was all part of an exploration. So here's a tangent for you. When we shut down Worldview Everlasting, my statement to you on video on this channel which is not there anymore, but the statement's just saying, hey, look, here's what's happening, was that I had realized I couldn't keep pretending to be the guy everybody thought Fisk was on those videos. There was a lot of me in those videos, but there was also a persona I had adopted because it was working and because it was fun and I was experimenting with it. But it wasn't like I was just turning on the camera and being me. There was always a need to live up to that. And after 5 years, 6 years of that, I was just like exhausted of it. I mean, I just couldn't pretend to be me, not pretend to be someone who's not me anymore. And so after that all kind of fell apart then because of that, or in part because of that. It was a major part of it. There was there I am at KFUO now, not really allowed to be me either, having to step into shoes that were pretty much made for me, being allowed to craft them and recraft them a little bit. And I think they did. They moved in really good directions, and I think the station's better off for that time. And I learned some stuff too. But the podcast was sort of me asking, like, well, if I'm not that guy who's bouncing around on the screen, right, sitting upside down on swords talking about the Athanasian Creed, aka Lutheran satire, well, then who am I, right? What could I do that I'd be willing to do even when I'm tired? And I don't remember where I heard this. It had to be a Tim Ferriss show with somebody. It's a guy who does documentary TV, and I think it's travel. And I don't remember his name, but I remember his insight, which was that he was talking about the first show he ever did for Discovery or whoever it was. And they were recording this show, and there was a moment that came up for him where, in whatever was going on, the event was weird. Like culturally, it was weird. So like he's Western and he's at this other house or something in a foreign land with a video crew, but it was like what on earth kind of thing. Like they're gonna make me eat this or who knows what it was. And he wanted to, for a moment, kind of crack a little joke at the camera and play the camera a little bit, which makes sense and it would sell, and it's the way a lot of stuff happens on cable TV. But he caught himself and he didn't do it, and he took a little flack for it actually. But the show's done very well. He's world famous now, and it's not because he makes jokes while he's doing travel stuff. It's because he takes it all very seriously and treats it with authenticity and respect, which is what he wanted to do because that's who he is. And so he was able to keep it going. So when I started the podcast again, I was searching and grasping and trying to find a way to have something go, right? Have something that's not WeTV, that actually would be me, that I could continue indefinitely without depth, or not without depth, without weariness. And Hardcore History at the time was, and still is, a podcast I listen to a lot. I mean, I really like it. And so, when you're into something, you're watching something, you're listening to something, you emulate it, or you do, whether you know it or not. And certainly if you're making art, you're going to emulate the art you're looking at. It's what happens. And so those Revelation ones are so like me just channeling Dan Carlin's spirit into Christianity to try to do what he did. And they're good. I mean, they're not. I mean, it's cool stuff. I want to go back and listen to them because I'm like, I don't remember what I said in that stuff. I don't remember what I learned. I was learning so much so fast, spitting it out. I don't remember a lot of it. And it's just good story. There's so much good story there. But at the same time, it wasn't, and it isn't, something I could do even when I'm exhausted at the end of a burnt candle on both ends. And that's what I need to find and be and do, at least as the thing, right? Because here's the other piece. I realized that all the way through Worldview Everlasting time, and then even with the podcast, I mean, this goes all in KFU, all those way up until maybe just about 3, 4, 5 months ago, even 6 months ago, maybe a year ago, that I had been trying to become a public figure for the church, for the gospel. I mean, that's very much at the heart of it. But also because I was really hoping that by doing so, for the church, for the gospel, it would enable me the freedom to write for the church and for the gospel. And what I finally realized was I'm doing all this work to do something, taking all this time so that I can be able to write, why don't I just use that time to write? Like, that would make sense, right? So that's a priority to me now over just about everything else. And I still want to do all the stuff that I can and that's valuable, right? I mean, you're here watching me, and it's late at night, and so it can't be that unvaluable. I want to do all that, but I also need to make sure that those pieces of what I need to do to be content with my vocation as a human, and not wallow in guilt over my misspent gifts, right, or whatever talents, whatever. I got to do that. And so then the Daniel the Revelation podcast stuff that was there, the content that's there. It's not that I don't want to do it or won't find a way to do it, but those are not the things I can just do, right? And so what you've gotten in the last 4 to 10, 12 weeks, maybe it's even more than that, is more along the lines of what I can just do. And it's a variety of stuff, right? And so that's where the Daniel might come back or will come back as an episode randomly out of the blue, right? And then you're going to wait a while again. And in the meantime, you're going to get interviews with guys that are my friends talking about pretty cool stuff. I mean, you got to check out Fridays. I think it came out Friday. The last one with Kuntz, man. Well, there's a whole other project in that one that I'd love to see happen. You got to listen to the end to find it. That's an amazing idea. So that kind of stuff. And then a week ago was the lecture that I recorded when I was in Fort Wayne. And again, there's more of those, including the Revelation will come out. So that's kind of what it's got to be. It's got to be what I can sit down and do, just like tonight, which I really intended to just be like complaining about swimming pools and locks. And now here we are, we're still talking. And the reason we're still talking is because you're still watching. Yeah, and all I'm doing is talking, right? I'm just being me on camera rather than try to put on a persona. And that's refreshing to me. I like that. Right? I can do this. This is not hard. And even when it's theology, right? It means just whatever I can do that day is what I can do that day. So cool question. And, when am I going to get back? The Lord knows. The Lord knows. There is a good commentary from CPH on Daniel out there. And most of what I'm doing is pulling from initially the Kyle and Dalitzsch commentary, which is available for free online. So you can go read it, right? It's a lot of digging through their stuff, Kyle and Dalitzsch, because it's dated and it's certainly less accessible to someone who's not theologically trained and, with the time to dig. The new one will have some of that as well. I'm forgetting whose the name is. Steinman? I think it's Steinman. Yeah, Concordia Commentary Series. It's going to have some scholastic stuff in it too, but so the info is there. But it'd be cool to have it. I agree. I'd love to have it turned into story and made into podcast and hat tip Dan Carlin from time to time. The like button. Oh, thanks for having trouble getting the like button, but I appreciate that. So you got to see some of the comic book today. That's good. There's comments still going toward the back end. Let's see here. Orox. Is that the unicorn talk there still going on? Let's see here. Damon, what's the difference between the? Yeah. Politics? I'll just say it this way, Damon. I will never go to the National Youth Gathering. Ever. And that's just the way I feel. So, yeah, for what it's worth there. You have to ask your pastor about that one. Yeah. And what's this? Bouncing up and down with the sword background thing. Yeah, good. Yeah, Pastor Feeney. He did a good job with that. He does a good job with most of what he does, except the one with the guys on the sticks. That one wasn't as funny, but don't tell him that. Simon's commentary is great. That's right. So go get it rather than asking me to do it. No, I'm just kidding. And take a class with Steinman. I've had courses he's designed, but taught by other profs. Yeah, no idea about how he is in the classroom. I'm sure he's decent, right? But that's the thing. All right, so, wow, 9:45 now. I need some sleepy time because 6 a.m. comes fast. And, yeah, I'm waking up at 6 these days. Kind of, what's that diet, that nutrition thing I was talking? It's crazy. It's changed my world. That'll be for another day. Thanks for watching, for me just ramble about stuff for time and feel bad for me. and the pool today. I mean, I get it. It's a pool. I know. You're right. But I floated in circles for 2.5 hours, locked out of my house with 4 children, no food, no phone, no dry towels, the sun going down, and my wife maybe not coming back for 4 hours. Just weep for my sadness. And then rejoice that she came back after 2 hours. We got back in, and we'll hopefully catch you guys tomorrow. Rock on.